Hello everyone, I am Unsung, your friendly neighborhood NPC, here to give you advice on the Occultist class. Now, I know what you're thinking, the Occultist class, but there is no Occultist class. Well, you're wrong. Well, actually, you're right. But the Occultist class comes from a mod called Call of the Wild on the Nexus. You should definitely check it out. It adds a bunch of classes, like the Occultist, as well as a bunch of archetypes for every class. So double the archetypes, lots more classes to pick from, a lot more fun gameplay in my opinion. Doesn't take away anything from the original game that's important, so totally recommend it. But here we go, diving into the Occultist class, see if you like it. The Occultist is a psychic magic user, like a psychic power user, that gets its psychic energy from these relics and implements that belong to these schools of magic and different things. So they're gaining this magical energy from their psychic connection to these implements, is what they're called. Which is a really cool notion in itself. So here we go. So they use intelligence, that is their spellcasting ability, and they get these things called mental focus points. Okay, so mental focus is equal to your level plus your intelligence modifier, and they refresh every day as long as you sleep for 8 hours in the game. And then you get to put these focus points into your implements as you choose. You start with 2 implements, and you gain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more based on how you want to do it. I already picked 2 to show you guys, which is why these are already on here. You do not start with those. Those are the ones that I chose. You can pick any 2. You also get focus powers, and the powers you have access to are based on the implements that you have in your magical relic arsenal. As well as the magic item skill, so you gain a bonus to all use magic device checks equal to half your level. You also gain Repower Construct, so as a swift action, you can expend a point of generic mental focus, which is a mental focus point that you did not put into one of your implements, to repower a broken constructed enemy, so any enemy that's a construct subtype. And then it lasts for the next turn, until your next turn, or until it reduces 0 hit points. At level 12, it is completely destroyed after a number of rounds equal to your level. At level 16, it lasts for a number of minutes equal to your level. So yeah, pet construct, pretty cool. And then you get implement mastery, where you select one of your implements that you have, and whenever you use a focus power from an implement of that school, the DC to resist the power from enemies is increased by 2, and your occultist level is increased by 4 for determining the effects and duration of that power. In addition, you gain 4 extra points of mental focus if you're using them for your mastered implement, which I think is pretty cool. I think these are a really creative kind of magic class, psychic class, right? So we're going to go over the different archetypes for these occultists, and then we're going to take a look at the implements and focus powers that they have available to them. First up is the battle host. So the battle host doesn't do anything with like the magic item stuff or anything like that. No construct repowering or anything like that. You only gain 1 implement at the start, and then you gain focus powers. You gain bonus feats that are combat feats, so this is the more combat occultist. You have different proficiencies, so you're proficient with all types of armors and shields, including tower shields. You can summon a spirit warrior, which works as spiritual ally spell. You use your intelligence modifier. You can use it once per day at 5th level, plus 1 additional time per day for every 4 levels you possess. So up to 5 times per day, which is pretty cool. You also gain heroic splendor, where you can imbue yourself with as a swift action to grant yourself a +4 to Strength, Dex, or Con for a minute. You can do that once per day at 6th level, plus 1 other time per day for every 4 levels. And if you switch your bonuses before the minute is up, it doesn't take away a new use of the power. It just switches it. So that minute still counts. It's just replacing it, which is really awesome. And then implement mastery again. So yeah, this is the battle host. They're just really into military history, battlefield lore, and the occult and stuff like that, which is really, really cool. Next is the Silksworn. The Silksworn is, instead of worrying about psychic charged relics, they're more into magical robes and magical arcane items. So they actually do arcane casting rather than psychic spells. Yeah. And you increase the number of spells that you have as well compared to a regular occultist. You still get your 2 implements. You get your magic item skill, no repower construct, but you get Silksworn Eloquence, so +1 to bluff and diplomacy checks per each of your implement schools that you have. So the more schools of magic you choose, the better off you'll be there. You'll gain Silksworn Arcana, so whenever you cast a spell, the spell's saving throw DC increases by 2, just all of your spells, and you gain 2 implement masteries instead of 1. So there you go. Next we have the Reliquarian, where you're a divine casting occultist. So you gain access to instead of an extra implement and a starting focus power, you gain access to a domain from your deity that you worship, and those domain powers and bonus spells as well. Those powers are the same. Everything else is the same. It's just focus on Reliquarian spellcasting, and it's divine spellcasting instead of the normal psychic spellcasting, which is pretty cool. So I think this uses wisdom then. It would use wisdom, probably. I'd have to check. If we just pick a god here, or a domain or something. Looks like it still uses intelligence. Yeah, you're still using intelligence, which is interesting. But there you go. You are a divine caster, though. So in terms of anything where you have to have divine spells to qualify, you have divine spells. Next is the Panoply. However you pronounce that word, savant. You have to choose a specialization, and then that specialization will have you pick implements. You can only pick implements then from that specialization. So you're kind of choosing to specialize instead of having access to all of the schools. Instead of Repower Construct, you get Panoptic Harmony. So whenever you cast a spell or use a power from one of your chosen associated implements, you treat it as if your caster level were 2 levels higher. But only if on his previous turn he cast a spell with or used a focus power from a different one of his chosen. So you have to use both of them in concession to do that. And then you have combined powers. So whenever you use a focus power, you can expend 2 points of mental focus to use a focus power from one of your chosen other associate at the same time. And the second focus power has to be at the same amount of casting time as your first power, or less casting time as your first power. But then you can use both powers at once, which is really cool. And the way those work is you can pick Mage Paraphernalia, Performer's Accoutrement, Saint's Holy Regalia, and Trappings of the Warrior. And each one of those gains you bonuses and gives you your different implement access. So Mage Paraphernalia is divination, evocation, and necromancy. Performer is enchantment and illusion. Saint's Holy Regalia is abjuration and conjuration. And Trappings of the Warrior is abjuration and transmutation, which is the one that I would choose particularly. So there's that. Next is the Necrocultist. As you can probably tell, you must pick the necromancy school of implements. You have to pick necromancy. You get necromantic bond bonus spells. So you gain bonus necromancy spells from the wizard spell list every couple levels, added on top of your actual spells. You do get repowered construct. You have to pick necromancy as your bonded implement mastery. You get ghostly horde, so you can summon a ghostly horde as a standard action. So the ghostly horde appears within 60 feet, fills an area 20 feet in diameter. Any creature caught inside takes 1d8 points of damage per 2 occultist levels, up to a maximum of 10d8. You have to succeed a fortitude save to half the damage. And non-living creatures or creatures immune to magical aging are immune to the damage. And you have life drain, where you can expend 1 point of mental focus to form necromancy implement to shoot a life draining ray, which does 1d4 negative levels on the target. For each negative level this attack gives a target, the Necrocultist regains a number of hit points equal to his Occultist level. So that's insane. You can use this once per day at 8th level, plus 1 additional time per day for every 3 levels thereafter, which is really cool. And then you get DC increased by 2 for all necromancy spells, as you would expect. So yeah, necromancy. So looking back on the Occultist, alright, so the implements go to each of the schools of magic, and they each have different powers associated with them. So I'm going to put all of these up, and you're going to be able to pause and take a look at the powers yourself. Alright? That way you can take a look at those and see what you would want to do yourself. So feel free to pause anywhere in this video to check these out and read them yourself. And then you can choose other implements to get you extra spells as well. And then yeah, that's what those are. Those are those implements. So you can just continue taking the extra spells one each time if you want to focus in on one school or 2 schools instead of just picking all of them. So if we choose abjuration and conjuration, right, you gain access to these powers. I'm going to read off the names of the powers and which implement they belong to, and then you can pause the video and check out what the powers do yourself instead of listening to me yap and explain it all for you. So you have the Aegis for abjuration, Psychic Fog for conjuration, Bedeviling Aura for illusion, Binding Pattern for enchantment, Combat Trick, specifically from Trappings of the Warrior, Danger Sight from divination, Diviner's Fortune from divination, Energy Blast from evocation, Energy Shield from abjuration, Flesh Mend from conjuration, Flesh Rot from necromancy, Globe of Negation from abjuration, Guardian Aura from Saint's Holy Regalia, in accordance with the prophecy from divination, Inspired Assault from Enchantment, Metamagic Knowledge from Mage's Paraphernalia, Metamagic Master from Mage's Paraphernalia, Mind Over Gravity from Transmutation, Necromantic Servant from Necromancy, Obey from Enchantment, Pain Wave from Necromancy, Philosopher's Touch from Transmutation, Puppet Master from Performer's Aquarium, Purge Corruption from Conjuration, Quickness from Transmutation, Radiance from Evocation, Shadow Beast from Illusion, Sidestep from Conjuration, Size Alteration from Transmutation, Soulbound from Necromancy, Spirit Shroud from Necromancy, Sudden Speed from Transmutation, Terror from Illusion, Unraveling from Abjuration, Unseen from Illusion, Wall of Power from Evocation. So feel free to pause the video at any of those points and check out what those powers do. But yeah, this is the Occultist. I love this class. If you haven't seen the Oracle video yet, check that one out too, because I also love that class. I think both of these classes are two of my favorite ones that could have possibly have been added by this mod. I just love them, love them, love them. So check those out. If you liked this video or this Occultist class seemed interesting to you, go to Call of the Wild on the Nexus and download that mod. The author Holic92 has a few other mods on there as well that are pretty great. I have the links to all of them in my description below, the ones that I use. So definitely check those out as well. Yeah, and looking forward to Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, seeing some of the different classes that they added in there, like Oracle and such. If you're a new or a veteran player, thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful to you and inspired you to maybe get this mod and try some of these cool classes out. I'm UnsungNPC. Thanks for hanging with me, and I will catch you in the next one.